Well, 2020 was a year of unprecedented challenges for business, with employers having to navigate challenges such as the JobKeeper cessation, as well as the coronavirus pandemic. For what to expect heading into 2021, Joydeep from People and Culture Strategies joins us live via Skype. Joydeep, welcome back to the program. Happy New Year. Hope you had a great break. Look, 2020, unprecedented, that word there again. Now, are we expecting a similar outcome in 2021? Plenty of challenges still remain, of course.
Yeah, absolutely. Happy New Year, David, to the team and all the viewers. Look, I think 2020 took a lot of employers by surprise, and everything happened extremely quickly. We know that employers were told pretty much overnight that they had to have the majority of their workers working from home. Gearing up for that was not easy. We found that a lot of our clients really struggled with how to implement JobKeeper, even though there was some commercial and economic respite with all of that. But that made for a lot of uncertainty and a lot of new uncharted territory for employers to navigate, on top of trying to keep their businesses afloat and trying to keep their people happy and motivated and everything else. Unfortunately, I think as much as people thought that 2021 and indeed early 2021 would see things resuming back to that pre-2020 normality, I think even just listening to what you're talking about there in terms of mask wearing, here in New South Wales, that's a huge change. And employers are going to start seeing a lot of resistance, because people will be saying to them, well, I don't want to wear a mask, and if I have to wear a mask if I'm on public transport, well, all of a sudden my view about coming to work, it might be different to what it was before. And that's just one example of why 2021 is going to continue to be extremely challenging for employers, probably even more so with a lot less assistance from the government than what they've been used to over the last 9 to 12 months, particularly come 1 April.
So what are the key themes that you're looking for in 2021? Of course, we've got the vaccine here. Of course, trying to go and implement that and get workers to go and take it as well could be quite a challenge, you would expect.
Yeah, there's going to be a lot of challenges in relation to that. Obviously, there's the uncertainty in terms of the extent to which a vaccine is going to be safe, and all of that's got to be tested. But then a real live question for employers, which I know many of them have been reaching out to me and my team over the last couple of weeks, is can I mandate that? If that's something that I know is safe, can I actually require my staff to be vaccinated? Is that a reasonable direction? Is that a lawful direction? If someone says no, what can I do in those circumstances? That will be a vexed issue for a lot of employers. In some industries, yes, absolutely, that will be a legitimate direction. In others, it's going to be a nice to have, and there's going to be plenty of test cases, a lot of work for the Fair Work Commission and other courts and tribunals in the employment space in 2021.
Joydeep, you touched upon the change here in New South Wales with the mask wearing in certain situations, particularly in public transport and in supermarkets and shopping centres and the like. When that feeds into that culture, potentially, like, know that things are getting worse, that maybe we should be more concerned, trying to convince people to come back to the office also looks like it's going to be another challenge, particularly in New South Wales.
It certainly is, David. I mean, what we saw in the last 2 months in New South Wales, certainly, and absolutely in other parts of Australia, perhaps not so much in Victoria, was a lot more employers saying we want to start bringing our people back. Yes, we've been able to get through the working from home. Yes, we might experiment with some kind of hybrid model, but the vast majority of employers, I think, got to a point towards the end of 2020 where they were saying we want, need, and prefer our people to be working from their primary place of work. Now, all of a sudden, quite literally in the last 2 weeks, employers, particularly here in New South Wales, but as a lesson around the country, are going to have to rethink that. And this is going to be really challenging, as much on the communication side as anything else. Employers have probably been saying to their staff, we want you to come back, we're going to be taking steps to make sure that everything is safe. And then all of a sudden, a very radical change on the mask wearing. And I think what's interesting about it is that we didn't do this when the numbers were considerably higher, but we're doing so when the numbers indeed overnight are zero. It's interesting, this mixed messaging, and I don't say that as a criticism of the authorities, but from an employer perspective, that resentment that a lot of employees are going to have towards this shifting sands approach is going to translate into a lot of hostility, a lot of resistance, a lot of headache for employers.
Absolutely. That change in mask wearing mandate in New South Wales certainly caught a lot of people by surprise, and being delivered as well. I think it was on January 2nd the decision was made. Very difficult to go and get people to pay attention during that period of time. So one to go keep an eye on as people start to go and trickle back to the office. Joydeep, I want to go and ask you as well, just to finish off, about the cessation of JobKeeper. Now, that seems to be an area that could be quite tricky when it comes to employers, particularly if staff have to be let go. What are you looking for in that particular space?
Well, employers really at this particular point in time should be doing their workforce planning. Now, that's never an easy thing to do, although they do have the advantage of knowing that 31 March end date for JobKeeper is not going to take anyone by surprise. Employers need to start thinking very carefully about what are their needs over the next 3 months, what are their needs over the next 3 months and beyond. There will be obligations that they have to communicate and consult with their workforce transparently about those plans. They may have to engage with unions and other parties within the workplace context. Ultimately, the lesson for employers here is get your commercials and economic basis for any decision making solid, first and foremost. Once you've got that, engage in proper, meaningful consultation and communication. Listen to what people have to say. When you do have to make those difficult decisions about letting people go, it goes without saying you've got to comply with your legal obligations, but understand what are those extra things that you might be able to do as an employer that might allow that employee who you're having to let go to leave with a better taste in their mouth than what might otherwise be the case. This is something that I've been seeing the entirety of my career. Complying with your legal obligations is price of entry for being an employer nowadays. It's what you do over and above that's going to be critical.
Joydeep, or People and Culture Strategies, it sounds like you're going to be a pretty busy man this year. Thanks for joining us on the program today, and we'll speak again soon.
Thanks for having me.